What is good? The combine has come and went, well, except for the big fellas, but we don't need them right now to tell you who's won and lost, because somebody's got to win and somebody has to lose.
The biggest winners.
Biggest winners and losers, post-combine reaction here. We're going to go running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and maybe a little quarterback at the end. But I think generally not a real big pile of losers here. I think you, the drafter and the fantasy player, might be the winner here, because I think we've elevated some draft stock for some guys, and we've moved up some players here in some higher rounds, making your draft picks more valuable. So I think the big winner is the dynasty owner who's holding some good picks right now. And
we get a ton of questions down in the comment section, which please feel free to hit us up. Make sure you like, subscribe, so you can get all the noties to your fingertips. But we get a ton of questions about what should I do with this draft pick? Who should I take at this particular pick? And it's like, there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of good players. What you need to do is hold on to that pick. That's what I've been telling everybody. Just hold on to your top pick, because as this offseason progresses, this is just a day in the history of what has to happen this offseason. People are now more engaged. There's numbers to look at. There's a lot of people that value this a lot. There's a lot of buzz. Twitter's trending. There's a lot of things going on. And your rookie pick just got more expensive by default. Regardless of what actually happened, this is just a progression. As the offseason goes on, your pick gets better.
It could have, I think, mostly stayed neutral. I don't think it would decrease necessarily, but I think it increased, because I think you just had a lot more guys pop up into maybe more valuable rounds potentially here. Wide receivers super deep. Tight ends, a couple of them may have popped up where there was only one for sure, and everybody likes Sanders, but now we may have two or three guys that you got to worry about there. So maybe that tight end premium is your second round, got a couple more guys in it, and there's some receivers now that were maybe a little trending down that might be trending back up, and some guys who you got, basically this whole thing is sort of confirmation bias. Did the guys that you like do well, or really?
I like Odunze, he did well.
Right. If he would have done terrible, there would have been a bunch of guys out there who think Odunze is overrated, who would have been screaming at the mountaintops that he's overrated. And that's kind of what this is. You just want people to not have to go back. The way I look at it is, do I need to go back and look at this guy? Am I way off base here? Did that not translate? And some guys just don't translate. Like you could throw, like they did a Corum, Marshawn Lloyd overlap of them running the same drill. Mm-hmm. Now Lloyd comes in and is a 8.9 RAS score, better athlete, yada yada yada. But when they run the drill and they overlap those two things, Corum's 3-4 steps ahead of him. So he's just operating a little different out there in that, and it's just one particular drill. I'm just saying, like, when you get on the field and you do stuff, guys play at different speeds. Play speed is better than underwear Olympic speed, but
right.
You want to
Keon Coleman a lot faster in the drill than he was on
right,
the 40.
and we'll get to that in a minute. But that's what you want. You just want to verify that, hey, this is in the confines of what can work, and that's what the combine can show you. It gives you a bunch of thresholds and things of, hey, now this guy's become a little bit more of an outlier. We're looking at percentages and thresholds, and that's kind of what we're doing here.
Hey, thresholds on the board, so let's take it easy on the threshold. I'm going to be hammered.
So let's jump into the running backs real quick. Right off the rip, Trey Benson.
Probably
the highest ranking guy here at the combine that's actually doing stuff. Now, Braylon Allen was there, but I don't believe he ran the 40. Brooks is injured, so he was there, but you could take everything that he weighs in at a grain of salt, because he's not in playing shape. He's injured.
Right.
So it really doesn't matter. I don't know if he's your RB1 or not, but Benson.
Look, I like Benson. He ran fast. Done deal.
Well, he not only did he tested well all over the board. He had a let's see here.
But he ran fast.
9.77 RAS score, which is the relative athletic testing score, which is is useful. You can put it up against things, but there's then you go through and there's a bunch of nonsense names there that were never anything that tested really well. So again, we're looking at thresholds and outliers and do they qualify to fit into these boxes? And Benson did that. Benson went ahead and cemented himself, I think, as a top 3 running back in the class. Probably just cemented himself as a second rounder, I would think, potentially. Like, he put up some Breece Hall type numbers here in the testing. He's a big fella. He's 6 foot. I believe he's, what would he come in at?
6 foot, 216.
And ran a 4.39, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
So put up some really good numbers.
He's been going, this is our pre-combine startup ADP. He's been going at 10.9. That's coming up.
Right.
I've been taking all those rookie running backs in the 10, 11, 12th round.
Sure,
like, one of them's going to be awesome.
Of course, and they're all going to move up. Well, not all of them. Some are going to move down, but more running backs are going to move up in your startups. And now in your rookie drafts, I think Benson, for a lot of people in your league, whether it's casual or a bunch of guys who are sharks, Benson just got a little more interesting kind of to everybody because of the testing, and he has put up good numbers. He's got the receiving. He had an injury to start his career, but came out here, blew it up. Benson, a big winner for sure. And again, one of those guys who just made your pick probably a little more valuable because his draft capital probably just went up.
Sure, the capital went up. You already know this guy is a pretty good receiver. He's he's a dynamic running back. You knew he was fast. You didn't know how fast. He's big enough to do the workhorse role. I was a big fan of Benson, and he definitely boosted his stock.
Right. Skyrocketing up for Benson. So I think the next guy, and I think most people would have led with this, but I wanted to go with Benson because, bigger prospect. But Jaylen Wright jumping way up there for everybody. Now, we liked Wright. We have a show with JB from Dynasty Theory talking about Jaylen Wright. Kind of had him on the sleeper kind of deal. No more. That is gone. And his draft capital probably just went up a good bit. He was maybe a 4th or 5th round guy, maybe borderline 3rd, but I think seems like he's probably going to go in the 3rd at this point. 5'10 and a half, 210, and then just puts up a 9.82 RAS score, 4.38 40, and he probably could have even been a little faster. It looked like he stumbled on both of his attempts a little bit. Like the 4th best broad jump ever. Yeah. At like 11.2. So everything for him, all that, and that's
for
all
running backs,
right? And that's all on film. Everything that you're seeing here is on film, and that's what we're trying. Again, I'm gonna hammer this home a few times. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to make sure that what we saw, what we watched, what we're seeing, and I know some people are just going strictly numbers, but I like to do both, and that's what. That confirmed it right there. He didn't come in and hit you with a 4.55 and a 10 broad jump, just some average numbers. Those are elevated numbers, and he does some elevated things on the field, and now it translated to testing. So you're going to, whether it works out in the league or not, I don't know, but it seems like the draft capital could go up, and fantasy, it's going to get attention of fantasy owners for sure. And it's not just like, you got this guy from Troy who we'll talk about in a minute. That's not going to move the needle for this guy's from Tennessee. That's going to move the needle for you a lot more. And he was already kind of buzzed as a sleeper around there. So Jaylen Wright, a huge winner from here, and one of those guys that we talked about at the start of the show, making your rookie picks more valuable as we go on throughout the season. The next guy obviously was the big RAS score winner here with the 9.99 from Louisville, Isaac Guerendo. He's a Wisconsin transfer, but he came out and just lit it up in every athletic testing metric basically possible. But like I said, 6 foot, 221, so a big fella. Came out here, put down a 4.33, a 1.55 split, a 41.5-inch vertical, and a 10.9 broad. Like just shuts it down. Now, this is
40+ inch vertical is so high.
You got to go watch the film now because I don't know very much about this guy. Like I kind of have an idea of who he is, but I've never watched any film on him. So this is one where probably improves it, at least gets his name in a bunch of people's mouths, and he might trend up in mocks and stuff like that until in rookie draft mocks until we get an actual draft capital, and that'll probably dictate a lot more of where he goes in your actual rookie drafts a little bit. But he's definitely a name that just popped up, and if he gets the capital, oh man, now we've just added another running back. But look, this is sexy. This is tantalizing for a lot of people. And he's caught 17 and 22 balls the last 2 years. So in those three, he's closing in on those thresholds.
Goddamn.
But a bigger back, obviously, and a lot of speed, good testing. That all kind of proves right out there. So we got to go watch him to see if all that lines up. Louisville was, an okay team this year. So it's not like I said, that it was Troy. So I thought he was a pretty big winner there. And then Marshawn Lloyd came out, tested really well, did his thing. He's obviously a South Carolina transfer to USC. Came out and ran really well, 8.90 in the RAS score. And again, some of this RAS stuff will change as everything gets more official and they have more time. But these are the early scores that I have available to me at this moment on Saturday night after the combine has ended.
We're getting it in for your pleasure.
But 5'9", 220 for Lloyd. So
well, that's some BMI that doesn't matter anymore, but still good BMI. So
strong measurables there, and then tested really well. Came in, ran a 4.46, which is what you want. 156, 36-inch vertical, not the best, but 9.10 broad, which that's still okay. But got him in the 8.9s of the RAS score for all that.
At that weight, yeah, I mean that
right.
BMI to run that fast and be that explosive. I mean, 36 inches vert is still pretty good. You'd like to see that broad over 10. You'd like to see 2 more inches on that broad.
Right.
I don't know if he can be good without those 2 inches.
But a good prospect, one that people like a lot. There's been some fence riding on him, and I think that'll get him over the fence for some people. There'll be some people revisiting the numbers, people revisiting the tape on him. I like Lloyd, so a big winner there. Showing that he is very athletic, was on a USC team that wasn't great. Well, he was on 2 USC teams, but the Trojans this year weren't an awesome team by any means. And then South Carolina kind of had a weird usage for him at times. So, but very explosive, very big, good pass catcher. So Marshawn Lloyd, I think a big winner here as well. So. Next guy, I'm going to go Blake Corum here. I don't think he's a winner per se, but I think he keeps you neutral at least. He didn't go out there and give you that, shit, we got a problem here. 5'8", 205, but ran a 4.5, so we wasn't a 4.6 and had a 1.58 split and a 35.5 inch vert. Broad is not available. But for me, he didn't take you out of the running of consideration of drafting him. And then, like I said, going back to that Marshawn Lloyd point of them overlapping each other when they show you them testing on the field, Corum's three steps ahead of him as they're moving through this drill. Obviously they started at the same time on that kind of shadow overlap deal that they do. So. You can kind of take that for what it is. That's the kind of stuff that shows up for Corum. He's very quick and elusive, and his vision's really good. And he showed that the top-end speed isn't absolutely terrible. 4.53, I'm not mad at that for my running back at all. Like, that's fast enough. People were, worried about how slow he is. That's not a. If it was 4.65, you'd be like, all right, well, that's not great. But we could certainly work with 4.5, and with all the other things that he does for you, hadn't caught a lot of balls, so that's a mark that. But they had Donovan Edwards over there, so this is a go-to a lot. A player like Corum, I can't imagine that he is incapable of catching footballs. And now his coach just went to the league.
They might need a running back.
They need a running back. He obviously fits what they want to do. If he goes to the Chargers, regardless of what you think about him, his usage is probably going to be pretty good. And Harbaugh likes a hammer, So what was interesting there is they dropped a little nugget while on air that Harbaugh went to the Chargers, and then he got USC's Southern California's running back coach.
Everyone who knows that the USC is Southern California.
Well, not here. Not here. We live in South Carolina.
Speaking of South Carolina, go on to, is it the City of Charleston City Paper? We are been nominated for Best Local Podcast.
We'll put the link in the... We'll hit you with this a bunch more times because we get a month of voting. But it's a kind of a big deal around here.
The party is awesome.
One of the best.
I want to go to the
year.
party again.
Go to. We'll put the link in there, but go vote for the FF Dynasty for best podcast.
You might have to find a zip code around here to enter in when you register.
No, you just put any zip code in.
You used to have to.
I don't think so. I'll give you the zip code if that's what you.
29414.
Yeah, sure.
It's not my zip code,
That's
but
not
it'll
my
work.
zip code either.
I got that 07, baby.
Well, I
Let's
got
go.
that good one. But anyway, USC running back coach went to the same staff that Harbaugh has, so there could be a little discourse of whether they want Lloyd or Corum if in position to draft them, because both of those guys have interests in I'm sure both
You
guys.
say Lloyd, I think of Dumb and Dumber again. Lloyd.
Marshawn Lloyd.
Shout out to whoever nominated us too, because I didn't nominate us. Somebody they put us on the list. I didn't even have to. I just found out. I was like, oh, word.
They sent us an email. I was
Shout
like,
out to the local listener.
Yeah. Appreciate you. So then some other guys. Pardon me, because I've never seen this name before and I haven't watched any tape on him. But Kimani Vidal came out and ran an excellent 40 and tested really well. Let's get this right here, an 8.89 RAS score. So pretty solid. Just a short, stocky workhorse type back who obviously came out here and tested really well. From Troy, so he was the guy that I was referencing earlier, but 5'8", 213, so really solid there. And then, ran a 4.46, 153, 37.5, and a 10 broad. So strong testing there. That's a must watch. This guy's on the radar now. We got to go watch this guy. So we're gonna go watch Kimani Vidal
too,
and see what's going on over there and figure out the pronunciation of his name for sure, because he looks like a lot of fun out there. And I obviously I flipped on a quick highlight tape to just see what was going on, because I got an hour to get ready for this show and I don't know anything about this guy really, except he just tested really well. So it's fun. It's good stuff. I don't think Troy's very good. And
is there a highlight tape that isn't fun?
Not very well. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I put on Guerendo's there, and it was like, this
the highlight tape wasn't blowing you through the roof?
It's fine.
It's fine. Damn, that's some slight there. You always see the numbers on the highlight video watched way more times than any of the individual games. So,
which we always used to talk shit and be like, yo, there's a bunch of individual games out here. We try to get as much all 22 as possible, but there's a bunch of individual game cutups, and those are in like the couple hundreds, and then there'll be 40,000 on the highlight video.
Right.
Like, y'all motherfuckers out here watching highlights.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then Tyrone Tracy Jr. from Purdue was a wide receiver, transitioned to the running back position, but he came out and put up a 9.7 RAS score. Know nothing about him, but obviously Antonio Gibson style, kind of converting from wide receiver to running back. Had a nice little season there for the Boilermakers. 5'11".
Make it 4 Boilermakers.
5'11", 209. He had the home crowd fired up there.
Yes, sir. Whatever you want, sir. We'll have the waitress bring it right over.
Put together a nice batch of numbers there for his testing.
What do you do?
4.48, 153,
40-inch vert plus 10 on the broad. He's good.
On the broad. I mean, so
the metric people really do like the athleticism for running backs. If the running back isn't athletic, the analytical community is almost out. But then Kyron really broke the mold.
Well, it seems to me that they care the least amount about it for the running back. Like as far overall, they care about athletic, like the testing. It's tight ends the most and running backs the least, is from kind of what I gather from everybody kind of talking about it.
I gather something different. That's the exact opposite of what I said.
Yeah,
one of us is right.
That's not what the fantasy data guys are all saying. So essentially,
they do like the yards per carry, and it's all about the over expected as well.
Yeah, well, certainly that's been the
college over expected is harder to find.
The new trend as of late, which whatever. Who put that expected together, and how'd you get it?
Well, there could be. There's a formula for how many yards you're expected to get depending on down distance and position on the field.
Sure.
And so if you're, if it's if it's 3rd and 3 and you're on the 20, you're expected to get 3 yards. If it's 1st and goal on the 1 or 2, you're not. It's just it depends on where you are, and so that's just but it's too blanket of a statement. I mean, they're just.
Well, it's you'll say something like all the context is built right into the stat, and I'm like, that seems.
What about offensive line grade? I'm not sure that's taken into account.
I think they supposedly consider all of that stuff in there, which I'm like, who's figuring that out?
So
anyway,
I've been putting together a player page here, and I'm working on getting all these metrics that people find important, and I'm working on building the thresholds into it, and just figuring out like what the most important thing is that A, that's difficult. B, to find the formulas for what some of these metrics are is difficult, and then to find the threshold is even more difficult. Like they don't really make it that known exactly what all is going on into these numbers, and then depending on who you're looking at, there may be a per game basis versus an actual overall statistic taken. And
well,
it's just
it's a constant evolution of back engineering it every year. If your model and things weren't right, then you try to get it closer to whatever the finish was from the last year, and
right, like people used to be out on undersized wide receivers and running backs, and now you can't because the recent historical data has just put that to bed. Right. People want to come out and say, "Oh, dang, Jahmyr Gibbs only 199. I need that 200-pound threshold drink." Right? Like, well, come on, man. What are we doing here?
Right. Which is why the combine stuff can be a little frustrating, but again, there's a use for it as a piece of the puzzle. So Tyrone Tracy Jr. on the list of things to watch here. Losers, I guess you could throw Bucky Irving in there. That wasn't what you wanted to see from him. He's a smaller guy. He didn't go out there and blaze it, but he's a quicker than fast guy. When you put on the tape's still really good. The tape's really fun. He's really hard to guard. He's really hard to deal with. So not the combine that you wanted from him. So he's a loser. So he probably drops out of maybe that second round where he was going in a lot of mocks that we were doing.
People are out on him. They're like, oh, I guess I can't have him now. I guess I can't draft him now.
5'9", 192, and then runs a 4.5. They're not interested anymore, and didn't test great in some of the I mean, he's certainly moved down to I'm sure at the very least the third round here. So people are probably out on Bucky Irving. You adjust, like you said, you got to knock your grade down a little bit, but you can't let it kill your favorite players, because a lot of different things can happen. If they didn't test great and the draft capital isn't what the draft capital bros deem worthy, then it doesn't mean that your guy's dead. Some of the guys they compared this guy to, and they're all, I guess, quote unquote outliers, is Singletary and Kyron Williams from last year. And I know we're grasping at straws here, but Bucky's tape is really good. And he's I don't know that he was ever necessarily going to project as a guy who had this huge role. He's going to have to come in, be a pass catcher. He can be your satellite, and we'll take it from there. I didn't expect Kyron Williams to do what Kyron Williams getting 30 touches a game, but I hung on to Kyron Williams and drafted him everywhere in the fourth round 2 years ago, and it really paid off this year. I'm not saying that Bucky's going to do that, but still a guy that I want. Let everybody else leave him for dead and scoop him up in the figure out where he ends up going, and just stay a pick or two ahead of it, or 3 or 4 picks ahead of it. If you still like Bucky, I still like Bucky. I'll still be drafting Bucky. Now, Audric Estime, another guy who didn't really run the 40 that you wanted him to, and I think 4.7 is going to make a lot of people have him be dead for you, but his RAS score was still 8.13. He tested well in a couple other areas. The broad and the vert were still okay.
You got some explosion.
It wasn't the worst. You watch him. I mean, that doesn't what happened at the combine doesn't necessarily line up. So he's moving down for sure. There's going to be so many people who are just completely out on him. I think you probably still draft him in the late third, fourth round, hopefully, and he'll still probably be very, there's a lot of really fun things about him on tape, and he could get you a bunch of touchdowns. He's got some sweet feet as for being a huge man at 5'11", 221. So Estime probably a loser today, but not completely out on him. Again, you just have to adjust what your expectations are and where you have to take him now. And then Dylan Johnson didn't do what we wanted Dylan Johnson to do. I didn't really expect Dylan Johnson to test very well. I was always fine with having him be a later pick. He's just gets it done. He's a pretty good player. We'll see what happens. I'll throw him on the bottom end of a roster and draft him as an undrafted free agent or late, time and time again. And then Dylan Lobb didn't necessarily, maybe more like Blake Corum, kind of stayed a little neutral, didn't blow the testing out of the water. He's from New Hampshire, so he's already kind of was going to be maybe potentially a little bit later round guy, but really good pass catcher. And he didn't blow it up to where he was now on everybody's radar, and they're like, we're going to be talking about him over the next 2 months until the draft. So that's kind of the running backs. That's where we stand there. Let's shift over to the wide receivers. I think you have basically a whole bunch of different flavors and styles in this class, whereas last class you kind of had a little bit of this, mostly shorter guys, but in this class you kind of have the whole gambit of all the different varieties of wide receivers. We kind of touched on this at the beginning. Obviously, Xavier Worthy came out here and blew it up. 4-2-1, new record, crushed it. High score. Is that good? I don't know. But, now you got a list of guys who ran really fast who haven't been good. So now he's almost an outlier at this point. But when you look at that list of guys, and people are already, I'm sure some people are joking about it. Some people are saying, if I didn't like him and now he's on this list, now I don't like him anymore. And I like him even less because he ran really fast, ran faster than anybody else. But all these other guys have stunk. He's got such a different skill set than all of those other guys on that list. And I don't have it in front of me right now, but we know it's the John Rosses and Hayward Bays and all those other guys. This guy's an actual
Kobe Ford.
This guy's an actual receiver who does so many things really, really well that I don't think it's going to be a problem in the league. And I saw Scott Barrett tweet out about how the BMI is much more of an issue than him being an outlier on the speed and being on that list. And it's like, could we just put it to bed? I
thought we were done with that.
I could give a shit less about your BMI and what, like, Xavier Worthy is fine. I don't care what his weight is. He's out there doing awesome things out on the field. I'm good. Doesn't bother me at all. Probably locked into my wide receiver 4 at this point. Really, really like Xavier Worthy, and he came out and blew it up and walked off. Now the other Texas receiver, and
really good post interview too, where he was just like, I can't believe I grew up watching the combine.
Right.
And John I never put myself in the spot, and then he ran a 4.25 on the first run. He could have quit, and he was like, I wanted that record.
I'm gonna do that again. I can go faster.
I like that interview. That you
did. But analytical side really likes Worthy. Blew up at the young age, so they're gonna like the breakout age and all that kind of stuff. The counterpart to him, Adonai Mitchell, does not. The analytical community does not like him, but he came out and really helped his cause out here running a 4.35. He was the fastest guy for a while there, and then he puts up a 9.98 RAS score as well. So I think he really helps his draft stuff. So now we have, I think Worthy just cemented himself in the first round, and now Mitchell is right on his heels because you got a little bit bigger guy, 6'2", 205, coming out here running a 4.35. And he certainly 4.34.
4.34. Settle down.
Excuse me. And then an 11.4 broad. It just slayed that vertical.
40-inch
vertical.
Jesus.
Really, So
these boys are insane.
Mitchell doesn't check all the analytical boxes that everybody wants, so he's been kind of left for dead. And I'm sort of in the middle on Mitchell. I don't hate Mitchell, but I don't love Mitchell. But he's got a lot of parts to his game that you really like. You just don't see him. You kind of see him disappear a little bit here and there, and maybe not put it all together. I don't think I ever saw 4.34 speed out there. I believe he was the guy who was saying he never really plays at full speed because he does so he can do different things with his route combinations, or when he runs routes, he doesn't run them at full speed, which, whatever. But great levitator, huge in the red zone, but clearly could be an awesome vertical threat. And we'd like to see him be a little better maybe with the ball in his hands for Adonai Mitchell there. But probably just put himself in the first round of the actual NFL draft again, whether he was maybe hanging on the outside of the fringe. That all those numbers probably really just helped him out. Once again, helping your rookie draft out here. So the two Texas guys, I think were obviously two huge winners today.
Hey, let me go in on some Brian Thomas because I see he's not on your list.
Yeah, he's on my list.
Wieners. Oh, is he?
Oh, sure. He's
not on here. I don't see him.
I had two more guys. BT right there, Bubba.
Okay, I'm going to jump. I'll jump to him. Because he had a really nice 4.33, ridiculous testing. And then what we haven't gotten to the point, I don't know, you talked a little bit about it, just the general validity of the combine and what do you take stock in. I like watching that gauntlet drill, man. I love watching that gauntlet drill.
Are good.
And he just murked that thing. Like
he had a good one. He had a drop on it. But you see
straight line. The feet are really
balls.
well. He's fluid. The athleticism is off the charts here.
Yeah, athleticism really, really good.
Size
huge. Running a 4.33 coming in at 6'3", 209. So didn't come in the 6'4" that you wanted maybe, but comes in rather large human. And absolutely murks it. Some people were worried about the vertical speed. Maybe I thought that was good. It just maybe took a second to quite get there.
I thought it was better speed, but the 4.33, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, faster than faster than quick per se.
Faster than quick,
which is obviously a little different. But came out, and the explosive metrics are pretty good. Bigger guy. What I didn't like is when you were doing the quarterback drills where they were throwing to him, he dropped like 4 in a row. And it was like, what are we doing here? And then some of them weren't the easiest catches, but some of them were kind of, catchable enough to catch the ball right here. And you already have a guy who people are like, I don't.
I like him, so I'm just going to be like, that's just a combine drill.
It is. I mean, it's nothing. It's probably nothing. So, yeah, great stock up for sure. Big winner. Just had him a little bit further down the list. Not the list is in any sort of ranking. But yeah,
well, in case it was.
But Brian Thomas is now. I said Worthy's up there, probably locked in at my 4. So Thomas is 5. Those guys are jockeying back and forth, which nothing really changed there. That's about where I was. Where I knew Worthy was fast. Him breaking that record had nothing to do with me. That's about where I had him. When we had Snoog on, that's what I said. I said he's probably somewhere around there. But BT comes out, Brian Thomas Jr. comes out here and absolutely slays it. So huge winner there. Doesn't have a huge route tree, I think, is what some people don't like, but that's kind of just what they were doing at LSU. I think he's very capable. He's going in the first round. I think you pretty much locked that up. So once again, he might have been pretty much going in the first round, but I think you could lock that in at this point. So again, moving guys up, moving more guys into the second round. We had so many guys in the wide receivers room test really well that I think you're having guys. I mean, you're going to get guys in the 4th, 5th round that probably ran and tested, pretty well. All things considered. So
looking at the pre-combine ADP startup, ADP Brian Thomas is at 7.9, Troy Franklin's at 8.4. Come down here, we had Worthy at 9.7.
Yeah,
I think that's all going up.
Yeah, I expected all of the ADP to continue to just
Sleeper
go up on these
still doesn't
rookies.
have the rookies injected into the ADP.
Right, you got to go to the side.
All the vets, and then you don't have to take your panties off. You just got to pull it to the side and find those rookies.
So 2 more guys who I think were very much trending in the wrong direction, I think really helped themselves today to get themselves back in this conversation and get it in a more positive light was Xavier Legette. He came in here and
you're a real asshole.
I think that's how you pronounce it. It's not Legette.
It's not Legette?
It's I watched some film on him today, and I think they were saying Legette.
Seriously?
I think so.
We need big co-op in here.
Yeah.
That dude is a fucking train.
Hoss.
Oh my god, dude.
So I know
it looks even more incredible in tights.
Oh,
in
for
the
sure.
Shorts. Like you just
huge
like,
ass.
Holy shit! Just the trunks.
Huge ass.
Just 2 trunks.
The 5th year thing, I know some people are just going to be out on that in general, fine, which is why I was pushing him down, but he had a good Senior Bowl. They said maybe not great first day, but then just kept getting better and better and was a little hurt there, I believe.
That's kind of his thing, right?
Comes out and rolls 4.39, 154, 40-inch vertical, 10.6 broad. So, puts together a let's see here, 9.92 RAS score, which is, obviously we've been talking about that this whole time. That's really good. But just a big hoss here, man. Like he gets rolling and good night. I haven't dove into everything to dig out all the context of maybe why it took him as a 5th year senior to break out or whatever. I don't care about that as much as some other people do. My shit is pretty binary. Can you fucking play or can't you? And then we're going to use all this other context to judge where you should be ranked and where I feel comfortable taking you. That's kind of how this works for me with all of the guys throughout veterans and rookies. And he just put together a really, really good combine and looked awesome. His gauntlet was really good. He came out there and slayed that thing.
You strike me more as a non-binary kind of guy.
But yeah, so Xavier Legette,
I'm going to look it up.
Came out, and I thought he really helped himself out here. He'll get himself in the good graces of some people. Some people will have him completely out, but I think he was a guy who wasn't going in the second round of a lot of our stuff and was going super late in our startups. And I think this is going to help him get some stock boosted back up. And then if he gets the draft capital, I'm sure there'll still be people out, but I think he did some good for himself. And then Tez Walker was the other guy who I saw kind of trending down, and people were getting kind of out on, and a one-trick pony and whatever. But if he's a one-trick pony, he came out there, put together a 4.3 40. He's a bigger guy as well, not huge, but not small. 9.88 RAS score here for Tez Walker, which was really, really solid for him, boosting his stat back up. I thought he did a good job in the gauntlet drill as well. Good hands.
He's kind of been falling off recently. It seems like, right?
That's kind of why
value.
I'm throwing him back up there a little bit for first. I think he won today because he was trending down, and I think now that you can trend him back up. So 6'1.5", 193, 33 and a quarter inch arms, but came out, ran a 4.36, 40-inch vert. 11.2 broad. So
it's like every fucking player had a 40-inch vert and 11-inch broad. And
yeah, I mean the wide receiver, like I said, that's why I led this off the way I did. I think everybody won here. Like your rookie picks won. There's so many wide receivers that are coming out.
Oprah was at the combine. Like you get a good RAS score. Right. You get a good RAS score.
Of different ones, and then of different flavors and different styles of X's and Y's and slots, and you kind of got them all. And a lot of them tested really well. I'll get to a list of guys who kind of at least remain neutral or didn't do anything to take you off of a list, I don't think. So, but I want to hit two more guys that I thought really won today. Lad McConkey is, I had him up in that right outside the BT Xavier Worthy. I think he's right up in that mix now. I loved him. He's a technician out on the field. I think he can play outside. Well, he had played outside, but I think he can play outside in the league. He definitely can play in the slot. Very, very tough to guard. And then just showed you he's got the fucking wheels too, baby. He came down 4.39, official 1.52, 36-inch vertical, which,
not bad for a white guy.
Yeah, and then the 10.4 broad. But the stuff that he shows you on the field, he is an absolute
I didn't expect the 4.39. That's like
filthy.
A little cupcake.
So when me and Snook talked about him, I said I think he's got a little bit more to the vertical game, and people aren't respecting it. And now they got to put some respect on my man's name. That is going to shoot him up there, and he will be a top of the second NFL draft pick now. If not, maybe even getting into something they were saying on the broadcast, a couple of scouts were talking about, please don't let the fucking Chiefs get this guy. Let's just not let the Chiefs get this guy. He's awesome. He ran the gauntlet fucking. They put the tracer on him. That thing was straight, Bo. Whereas you get to somebody like you watch Troy Franklin run that thing, and
he was looking like
Bo. Everything he did out there, not that he ran slow or anything. He did good. The RAS score is pretty good for him, but just all the things that he was doing out there. I know we haven't talked terribly negative, and it's not. I'm certainly not moving Franklin down anywhere, but it was just Bo, what are you doing? You did it twice. The first time, hey, maybe it got a little wonky. You were off your game, or it's the first time you're doing it. So the second time, what do you do? I know somebody was Bo, run straight.
Well, he obviously hadn't practiced it or been taught. He didn't put the time. He wasn't running that drill. The second time's not going to work if the first time's that bad.
I mean, not a great show. He's probably a little bit of a loser for me today. A little bit easier to discredit him at this point for me. But still, lot to like about him. So I'm not certain he's not a loser by any means. But I don't think too many wide receivers really lost. So that just to find a little bit of something to nitpick on with him is kind of what I'm saying there. So Lad, and then Ricky Pearsall, I think, was another winner here. Again, a really good route technician, came and ran really, really well there. I believe it was 4.43. Had a strong 40, but 6'1", 189. He's got 30-inch arms, 9 1/4 hands.
4.41.
4.41. 1.57. 42 vertical jump. He's dunking.
6'6" on the 3-cone drill.
Yeah. So, and not a ton of 3-coners going down, but the broad was 10.9. So just gives you everything that you wanted to see. And it just like Lad, all that stuff that shows up on tape, those quick feet, that cutting in and out, the technician on the field of start, stop, fluidness with the hips, all that stuff, and can attack you vertically. Probably had the catch of the year. It's ridiculous. One-arm grab, absolutely absurd. But I think he really elevated his stock too. So once again, he's certainly a wide receiver that wasn't going in the second round of rookie mocks, especially Superflex tight end premium, that I think now is definitely going to be in the mix. And we haven't even gotten to a whole bunch of other names. So before I get to those real quick, I do want to touch on Keon Coleman because you mentioned it at the top there while we were talking about running backs. Obviously didn't run the 40 that you wanted him to run, right? He ran the 4.6 or whatever. So people are like, oh yeah, we're out on him. And then there were some graphics of comparing him and his size to other guys that didn't really work out. Cool. But when you go in there, and just like I was talking about the Corum and the Lloyd thing, what they were popping up on the screen, which was really interesting. You could see the speed at the gauntlet on some guys, and then they show you the straight line. Coleman was at 20.8 miles per hour running the gauntlet. He ran the shit out of that gauntlet drill. And basically, if you're not running...
What was the speed?
20.8. Like Ladd and those other guys, like their tops were like 18.9-ish, 20.8. And some of those, like Troy Franklin, weaving all over the place and not running as fast as he necessarily could. That's unsureness of your hands. The ball's coming this way, you're weaving to, so that could potentially be perceived as that. And then, what Jerry Rice was saying about it is if you're off that line like that, that's giving DBs room to kind of get up underneath.
You're also not staying where the quarterback thinks you're
floating
be.
back instead of staying where you're supposed to be. So again, not to kill my man, but 20.8 on the gauntlet drill. That's fucking awesome. Like that's ridiculous.
And then look at this explosion with the vert and the broad.
Right. But then Next Gen was tracking these things, which I wish I could get. But like on the 40-yard dash, 22.17 miles per hour. That was 15th. All right. But then on his slant routes, when he was running them, 19.45. That was third overall in the group. The dagger route, 18 miles an hour, fourth in the group. The go ball, 21.7 miles per hour, second in the group. Slot strike, 18.47 miles per hour, second in the group. So when he was out on that field doing the drills, it was all there. He was one of the fastest fucking guys out there. But when he ran the 40, for whatever reason, it just we can't judge everything by. We can't just let somebody die that you love.
4.61 isn't the absolute worst for someone who's 6'3", 213.
No, it's not. But it's just
And
so going back to Tez and Legette, Legette, those guys were trending bad.
And play of this,
and they gave you
or name.
They gave you a reason to come back on them a little bit, to come back on Tez Walker, to come back on Xavier there. But Keon Coleman then puts up that 4.6 and maybe some other numbers that you didn't necessarily love. Some of them were all right. But he didn't bring you back like some of those other guys might have. And I think if you were already red flagged, and he does have some red flags in his profile, Keon Coleman, that is, that 4.6 just was like basically confirmed. Oh yeah, I'm out. He stinks. Yada, yada, yada. But when you go and look at some of the other GPS tracking stats with him, which that was just a screenshot, so I was able to capture that. And just thought that was really interesting. I obviously didn't get them all. I'd love access to all that because that's better information than the actual testing. And what are you doing when you're doing this? That's what I want to know. So certainly don't be out on Keon Coleman because of the 40 or whatever, man. Like, go do your work. See if you're out on him for other reasons. Again, there are some red flags in the production, but.
Well, he seems like he's been falling, or maybe never was up high enough.
Now he's the NFL had him as a first round pick.
Right.
We not us necessarily, but the community had him trending down, and I think they were more right than wrong because there is red flags. But he went out there and the testing, some of the surface testing, the GPS numbers and the other things of him actually doing stuff is way better. But it may not have bounced the stock back in the right position as Tez may have and as Legette possibly did. So
I think it is legit.
So and then some other guys who kind of remained neutral for me and didn't do anything to take him off the list was Roman Wilson. He came out there, had a good 40. Actually, it was 4.4 something, and then when they gave the officials, he was down to 4.39, I believe. So he went out there and did what he was supposed to do. Some people were saying 4.2s, and I'm like, that's fucking insane. He's not running 4.2s. Jamari Thrash came out, and he's a guy who I liked, who I thought could be a third-round player. He tested well enough. Cowan came out and ran pretty fast. He's going to be a slot. McMillan came out there, ran really well. Didn't do anything to take him off the list. I really like McMillan. He's a favorite of mine, especially, it's nice that all the guys that you like aren't going to get this crazy buzz, so you still can maybe get some value on them. And then, Washington, who transferred from Northwestern to Virginia, came out there and he didn't disappoint. And then Jerry Rice, this kid, I need to go watch some Rice. He's a bigger guy, so the numbers aren't like upper echelon, but when you adjust everything, kind of like you were saying with some of those other guys, he still put up pretty good numbers. So Rice didn't go off the board for me. Need to watch him. So that's kind of where I'm at with the wide receivers. Nobody really, I came out and was like, oh, that guy's dead to me. All the guys that I've been watching and I kind of liked all came in here and at least didn't go, oh yeah, we gotta really consider dropping this guy. We can kind of have them all stay kind of around where they were at and then see what the capital does. Roman Wilson right now is getting real good capital, so that could be really, really strong for him. And at one point, McMillan was high up there, and then he got in, a year or two ago. So we'll see. But some really, really good receivers, really, really deep. Your rookie picks got better. And then just to wrap this thing up, we can hit the tight ends. Theo Johnson broke the RAS score this year for the tight ends out of Penn State, We had Kuntz last year, and that basically can tell you kind of what you need to know a little bit. Maybe Kuntz will be great, but great RAS score. So saw a chart today. Forgive me of who tweeted it. I would say their name if Heath, maybe. I'm not sure.
Cummings?
Maybe, but potentially. But basically hit out a chart with the last year's rookies on it with all the other tight ends. And the smattering of the chart was all over the place. And of course, if you are elite and athletic and you had good production, your chances of being good are pretty good. And then some of those guys were. But then some of these other guys who tested really well have been dog shit and have never been any good. I don't know if Theo Johnson's any good. Our guy Matt liked Theo Johnson. He had him on the sleeper show. I would pick him up. We'll see where the draft capital gets him and go back to the tape. But production isn't everything as for the tight end position.
Ryan Heath.
Shout out to him.
QBL Ryan.
You can check out that chart there, and it's just kind of smattered all over the place with guys who tested and did a bunch of different things, and they succeeded. And yes, the percentiles probably vary on some of those guys, but that's kind of how we play this game. You pick the right outliers and do the work, and you usually can be right around the area of the correct outliers. But Ben Sinnott came out there and had a good combine. He was some people's already tight end too. So if maybe you think Sanders didn't have one or you already liked him, he solidified the two. So we've at least people are going to be interested in Theo Johnson now at this point, especially if he gets the capital. So he could be some people's tight end too as well. So now in tight end premium and not, you've just added at least two more guys into the mix along with Jatavion Sanders, who didn't come out there and crush it. Testing wise, obviously Brock wasn't there. So again, we added two more guys and then some guys to watch. Jaheim Bell came out there and had a good showing. Tip, the TIP was in town. Tip Ryman, sounds made up. Sounds like a Vince Vaughn character in one of his movies. But he came out there and had a really good showing as well. I love
when TIP be rhyming.
I hit up Riley, who was at the East West Shine, and he said he was okay, but wasn't counting on him to be, great. But I read some stuff from the Shrine that said he was borderline uncoverable. So, but he has a really good RAS score as well. And then Culp from Washington came out there and ran really well. So those would be three guys I'd go back and kind of watch a little closer. But don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the tight ends there because, but I think we did at least add potentially 2 to 3 tight ends to the mix here of viable drafted tight ends, and we'll see where the capital gets. So again, making your rookie draft picks go even further. And then to wrap this thing up, we would be remiss to not come out here and celebrate Michael Penix of coming out there and absolutely taking a doo-doo on all the quarterbacks at that combine, baby. Was out there just all the other quarterbacks were like, damn, look at this motherfucker out here. Look at how the ball comes out of his hands. Huge hands, like big as Anthony Richardson's hands, and he's 3 inches shorter, and like top 10 hands of all time. So cold weather cities, what's up?
Yeah.
But the big thing was the medicals came back Very, very, very good. No red flags. Nobody was super upset about it. Multiple people reporting medicals were really good on Penix, which is why everybody was. And then I heard a lot of people talking shit that he was a lefty. Like, why the fuck do you care if he's a lefty?
Not that many good lefties.
If he could, so what? Like, who cares? Steve Young's awesome. Like, what's not that many lefties? Okay, Tua is fine. You give me two. You tell me I could draft Tua right now, I'm cool. Like, that's fine. Maybe he's not the best quarterback in the league, but we don't suck anymore. So
Tua on the Dolphins.
Yeah, well, I mean,
put Tua on the Panthers.
Well, sure, you could put fucking 16 quarterbacks on the Panthers, and they'd probably be pretty terrible, you know?
Yeah, it's devastating to my case.
Right. So, but Penix having a really good, and he is going to remain my quarterback 4 until further notice. The draft happens, and McCarthy goes in the first, and Penix goes in the 4th. No longer my QB4.
Right.
I will still draft the hell out of Penix because I believe in him. Because I do think he's really good, and
get him a lot cheaper.
Feel like there's a lot of haterade being slung around by people who dislike Penix for whatever reason, just finding reasons to hate on my man. Outside of the fact that he's not the most mobile guy, but he doesn't get sacked a lot, so take that for what it is. It's okay, you know. I think there's plenty of systems around the league that can plug him in. There's a quarterback need. If he goes in the second round, yeah, I'll probably end up drafting him in the second round of rookies, and we'll adjust. And we've talked about this, and we talked about it through all this show here. So really, really good stuff from Penix. Definitely threw the ball extremely well throughout that process.
They were just verbally jerking him off the whole time.
And then I was putting the kids to bed, and I had the post game on from the combine, and they just spent another. You know, they went.
How many rotations came off that ball as he threw it?
Just good, solid ball. And then, you know, Rattler, I think, is going to be somebody who you want to add later in your rookie drafts. Well, I mean, you got the pedigree, and he's really kind of matured as things have gone on. Really good, really good stuff at the Senior Bowl. A lot of positive reports, and Beamer has nothing but awesome things to say about the maturity and how much the guys love him.
Can't wait to hear what Beamer says.
How much of a gym rat he is and all that stuff. I mean, so.
Go Tigers.
But, you know, I think Rattler is going to be a nice stab for you. We maybe get 3rd, 4th, 5th round capital and stick him on your bench. But, you know, hopefully I want my guy Penix to go in that, you know, in that first round. We'll see if he does. I can't imagine he goes any later than the second round with all the need.
Dashboard confessionals over here.
I mean, it would. Vindicated. Of course, it would feel. You know,
shout out to Foreman.
Of course, it would feel good. You know, for the Seahawks to get him. Grubbs over there, who was his OC in Washington for the Huskies. How much pull does he have in that draft room? I don't know. Does the GM want to take a different position there? Would be. You know, not great if the Seahawks did take a quarterback there and it wasn't Penix, unless they traded up and got somebody else. I can't hate on McCarthy. Bo Nix is fine. You know, I'll take a flyer on Bo Nix, but I'm not excited about it. Again, I like Penix. I'm putting Penix over both JJ.
You look good throwing the gauntlet balls.
Yeah, I'll put Penix over JJ and Nix still. So yeah. But Penix a big winner for me also because I love Penix. So, again, we'll end this the same way we began it, confirmation bias on a lot of this stuff here. So, I didn't have to throw a lot of stuff in the trash. So, we're in good shape. I think you're in good shape. Everything was really good for fantasy purposes here and a really, really deep wide receiver class, a really overly athletic tight end class. So, even some of the guys I didn't mention all have, you know, had some pretty good RAS scores as well. So, those guys have hope, and then some decent running back testing as well on some unexpected guys and some expected guys. So overall, really good. Thank you for joining our TED Talk on the Combine winners and losers. Very much appreciate it. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment below. We'll be hitting you with a rookie mock tomorrow, and just getting the first glimpse of where these guys are, who's rising and who's falling in the mocks, because that's really the most important thing is where the value is going to be, and that's what we'll be doing all offseason, mocking so we don't fuck it up. We'll be going live the following week with more startups, and we'll be hot and heavy with more Dynasty information over the next few weeks. Kind of took a little breather there for a second, but we're about to get back into the deep end of the pool here for a couple months. And,
I've been deep in them sheets, working on getting a nice statistical spreadsheet for you to check out and player pages that we're building. And we got a free Discord channel about to drop probably like tomorrow or tonight. We're opening up a small portion of the Discord server to the general public. So if you go over to patreon.com/FF Dynasty, you don't want to give us the $5 holler, all good. There's a free membership you can sign up for, get access to the free general chat.
Get a couple little channels. Obviously, you don't get anything for the $5 holler guys.
Right. Won't be able to get access to the roster review channel and stuff like that.
But you could still give you a place to post those, so we and your trades and all that stuff to talk amongst other FF Dynasty listeners, and we'll pop in there from time to time. But.
Yep, and go over to the City Paper, Charleston City Paper. Vote for the FF Dynasty for Best of Charleston. Shout out to whoever nominated us for that. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, hit us with a 5-star review. And that's about it. We appreciate y'all for joining us. And we'll be back with a lot more. We're just getting started.
Just getting rolling.
Yep. All right.
Appreciate y'all.
Peace.